chapter. Okay, so what's today's session about إن شاء الله? What is it about? يلا يا حلوين نصحصح شوية بقى.
The initial
stages of mentoring.
أماني. Yes, the initial stages of observation, of the pre-observation. Okay. Yeah. بسم الله. So let's see together. So by the end of the session, inshallah, we will identify the purpose of the pre-observation. The second part, distinguish between different observation techniques. The third part is apply active listening skills during mentor-mentee meetings. Number 4, use effective communication language. And this is very important, to use the effective communication language during mentor-mentee meetings. We mean trainer-trainee, teacher and learners meetings, family and or parents and their children. So by mentor-mentee, we mean any meeting with any kinds of people who are observing each other. So also identify the purpose of classroom observations, and the most important part, apply the gradual release model in lesson planning and mentoring. I do, we do, you do, and we have already done this before. So let's start with the first part, initial stages of the mentoring process. How many steps are there in the stages of the initial stages of the mentoring process? How many steps are there? We can read together. How many steps are there, my dear friends?
3 stages.
How many steps are there? Are there 1, 2, or 3 steps?
3 steps.
Yeah, there are 3 steps. The first step is initial mentor-mentee meeting. What do you mean by initial? Why do you mean by initial? Is it after, during, or before?
Before?
Before. Of course. When we say initial, we mean before, yes, before anything, before any meeting, we have to prepare our mentees, to prepare our learners for the coming sessions, inshallah, for the coming school year, for anything. We can call it orientation or preparation for what's coming together. And do you remember what have we done as an initial step before starting our sessions? Do you remember? What did we do as an initial step?
Yes,
icebreaker. Excellent. The needs analysis. Before preparing or orienting for anything, we have to know about the needs of our learners or our mentees. And of course, excellent, we have to use icebreakers to communicate with others and to let them feel more relaxed and comfortable with us, of course. So there are 3 steps for the initial stages. The first one is initial mentor-mentee meeting. The second is pre-observation meeting. And what do we mean by pre-observation meeting? Do you like when the supervisor enter your classroom without your permission? Do you like it? Do you like it?
No.
Of course not.
No.
All of us don't like this and feel stressed and maybe frustrated or depressed when they find that suddenly there is a supervisor standing in front of them and they are not prepared or they are not ready to receive anyone today. So before observing the others, we have to tell them that or take their permission. We are going to observe you for some reasons, to communicate together, to solve some problems and some issues. And the third part, and I think this is the core or the target of today's session, is the classroom observation, okay? So let's start with the first one, the initial mentor-mentee meeting, okay? What do you think are the goals of that first meeting with your mentee? Can you tell me what are the goals of the first meeting with your mentee? Let's make it more applicable in our classroom. What are the goals of meeting your classroom or your learners for the first time? What are your goals when you are meeting them? Can you tell me?
Getting to know them.
Yes, break the ice. Okay, break the ice for what? It's okay to break the ice. For what? What are the goals?
Getting to know them and
Excellent. Yeah, getting to know each other's. I have to tell them about me, and at the same time, I have to know about them. Using what language? Do you remember? Is it okay to use Arabic, to use English, to use
Both
a
of them.
combination
a
of them?
mix.
Yes.
Yeah, a mix.
Yes.
Yes, a mix. Maybe some people feel more relieved with using English. Others say I like using Arabic for my initial sessions. But again, it depends on your classes and on the level of your classes, on the language they can understand and they can use. So we cannot say that there is a specific taboo or language you can use with your classes. You can, by observation, you can decide which language you can use with them, okay? So, as you have mentioned, the first or the goals for the first meeting with our mentee is breaking the ice, getting to know each other, and of course, we will do all these things by building a good
Rapport.
rapport. Excellent. So let's see together what are the goals of the first meeting with our mentees. The first point is building a rapport. The second, set goals. Do you remember the needs analysis? When we know the needs of our learners, of course, we set the goals either to use simple language, to try to give them more practice or modeling, and so on. So the first goal is building rapport, of course. The second is set goals. And number three, decide on the details of your mentoring contact. Do you know what is the meaning of contact? What's a contact? What do we mean by contact? When we say contact,
The relation between the mentor and the mentees, or
yeah, the relation between the mentor and the mentee. And with our learners,
Maybe it will be rules, some rules.
excellent, excellent. That's great. With our learners, especially young learners, adults, high learners, what kind of learners? It will be the norms or the rules we will agree to follow together all the year round. So, is the contract or can it be written or oral contract? Is it an oral or written, or it can be both? An oral or and a written contract. What kind of contract is it?
Maybe both written
of
and
them?
oral.
Yeah, of course. It can be both. We can use oral language or oral contract with our learners to agree on so and so and so. And of course, sometimes, and I like this idea, we can write together the norms or the rules and fix it next to the blackboard or next to the board to be visible for all the learners to follow all the years. And if you are working with adults or high learners or teenagers, you can have a written contract. Why? Why do we have to write a contract with them? For many reasons. The first reason is to know how much commitment required by both parties, the mentor and the mentee. By commitment, we mean that are they ready to complete or accomplish all the tasks which are needed from them or not? Okay. The second reason, to specify the responsibilities of both mentor and mentee. So a contract is very important for specifying how much commitment required by both of them. The second reason, the responsibilities of both mentor and mentee. What are the tasks which are needed from them and how will they achieve these tasks or accomplish them? The third reason is expected timeline, to set the time to be fixed from the very beginning, to know where to meet and when to meet and how you will work or run your sessions together. And of course, the fourth reason is goals and objectives of the mentoring. When you write a contract or when you tell them about your contract, either a written or an oral one, You set the goals and make the objectives clear for all of you, for both of you, the mentor and the mentee, the teacher and the learner. You tell them, for example, this year, I'm going to teach you English, and what do you need from me? They will tell you, we need so and so and so, and vice versa. You will ask them the rules and the norms they are going to follow all the year round to achieve the goals of the curriculum. And of course, contract information of both mentor and mentee. And for us as teachers inside the classrooms, we have the register or the list of names and the register of marks to follow our learners all the year round. So again, what are the goals of the first meeting with our mentees? What are the goals? Let's say them together. The first goal is
Building rapport.
building rapport. The second is
Set
Set
goals.
goals.
set goals. And the third is
Decide on the details.
decide the details of the contract. And why a contract is important. Why is it important to have a contract with your mentees? Why?
To specify how much commitment required,
Yeah, of course. The second reason.
and to know the responsibilities between them,
Excellent.
and know the expected timeline,
Excellent.
and knowing the goals and objectives of the mentoring.
That's right. Exactly. And the third, the last reason.
Contact information of both mentor and mentee.
Yes, to have the suitable information or the enough information about all of them. Okay. So now let's see a sample mentoring program and what they expect in the first meeting. Let's see together what people expect from the first meeting. And tell me, please, when you can see, when you can listen the sound video, okay?
Good afternoon. My name's Dr. Amy Iverson, and I'm a consultant psychiatrist with an interest and passion for mentoring.
Can you hear it?
And my company, Hope Consulting,
Yes.
have the privilege of
Okay.
helping the Academy of Medical Sciences to run their mentoring scheme here. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes this afternoon talking to you about a very important topic, which is how to set up and run your first mentoring session. I often tell people that this first mentoring session is perhaps the most important one you'll have. So I'm going to give you lots of tips and ideas about how to make the most of it. So this slide shows the typical trajectory of a mentoring relationship. And you can see at the beginning there's this very important bit, which is where you build rapport between the mentor and the mentee. And then this also important bit where you're setting direction, deciding what's going to be the content of the sessions, what do you really want to get out of it, how will you know it's been a success. And then the mentoring relationship progresses and there's a period of intense learning and value, and eventually it winds up. But today what we're going to really focus on is that first bit of the graph on building rapport and setting direction. So the scheme that we run here at the Academy of Medical Sciences is very focused on you as the mentee. The mentee is encouraged to be highly proactive. The mentee is encouraged to set the agenda for the sessions and to set the general direction of the mentoring relationship. And what that means is, naturally leading on from that, is that the mentee is expected to set up and run the meetings themselves. And we found it really helpful if the mentee can email a really short summary of what they want to get out of the mentoring meeting 24 hours before it goes ahead. We find that's really helpful because it helps you to focus your mind on what you're going to do the following day when you have the meeting. And also it helps the mentor to prepare a bit when they're thinking about how they're going to help you. Similarly, after the meeting, we found it really, really helpful if the mentee can email a short summary of what they've learned, what they've discovered, what were the key things that they really, discoveries that they made during the mentoring meeting, and send that to the mentor within around 72 hours of the session. So what about this first meeting then? What can you expect to get out of it? What should you aim to get out of it? Well, probably the most important thing that we want you to try and do is to establish rapport between the mentor and the mentee. And you might do that by discussing common ground, shared experiences, values that you both hold, or things that you both feel passionately about, such as hobbies. It's also important to talk about relevant social and career history, perhaps if that comes up, and we encourage mentors to be as honest as possible and disclose if appropriate. And it's also important to think about a little bit about focusing and prioritizing your personal objectives. It's important to do some contracting and setting down some ideas of how you're going to work together, and we'll cover that in a moment. But also important to think about your expectations. What is it you think you're going to get out of this relationship? Also for the mentor to tell you, what is it that they think they're able to offer you? And obviously to give you some clarity and have an opportunity to answer any questions. At the end of the meeting, the key thing that differentiates a mentoring relationship from a cozy chat is that you will come up with some agreed action plans for the period between now and the next meeting. So let's focus in now a little bit more on the issue of building rapport, as this should take around half of that first meeting that you have. Rapport is really helpful because it helps mentors and mentees to get under the surface and talk about issues that may be difficult or personal. You're simply not going to do that if you're in a relationship where there isn't good rapport. So what are the components of rapport? And we've come up with the word affect to help you remember the components of rapport. And the first bit is about empathy, understanding each other's perspectives, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Focus. Focus is so important. It's about being able to listen to each other, concentrate on each other, exclude other superfluous stuff that's going on, and be able to actually really give yourself completely over to the other person in terms of attention. It's also about flexibility, being open to each other's ideas, even if they're different from your own, and being willing to go with them. It's about empowerment. The session should help you, if it's successful, to take ownership of your goals. And congruence. Does the mentor kind of work alongside you? Do they see things from your perspective? Can they acknowledge and accept your goals, even if they're different from their own? And trust. Very important component of rapport. Can they trust you? Can you trust your mentor? Will you both do what you say and what you've committed to? Here are a couple of questions that may help you when you begin to think about setting objectives for your mentoring relationship. And clear objectives and goals, don't worry, they may take a few sessions to emerge fully, but it does help if you can think about your objectives before a first meeting, and indeed before every meeting that you subsequently have.
So how can we build a good rapport with our mentees? How can we build a good rapport with them? It is summarized in the word affect. How can we build a good rapport with our mentees or our learners?
By making them trust in their mentor.
Yes, trust.
Keeping
them. Yes, empathy, of course.
Focus.
Focused. Excellent. What else? And please try to focus more. Okay. So empathy is very important. Try to keep them focused. Trust also is very important when they feel relaxed to tell you about their needs and interests. Okay. So, and we have to answer their questions. If they have any questions, we have to answer all their questions and their inquiries about everything from the very beginning. Okay.
So here's a couple of questions just to kind of pique your interest. The first one is, what do you really want to be and do? A really difficult question, but a really important one. And then once you've decided that, well, what are you doing really well that's helping you to get there? What are you not doing so well that might potentially be preventing you from getting there? What will you do differently tomorrow to meet this challenge? And how could a mentor help you? That's a very, very important question, and something you need to give some thought to so that you can guide your mentor. Here's what I need from you. This is what I really need to understand further. How can you help me? Common themes of mentoring sessions: there's no right or wrong topic to discuss, so that's a key thing for you to know. Absolutely nothing is off limits unless it's been agreed before the session that it won't be discussed. But people often bring things like people stuff, dealing with a difficult boss or supervisor, or dealing with demanding.
So when you are dealing with your learners, is there something right and something wrong? Is there something right and
No.
something wrong? No.
Nothing's wrong.
When we
Right.
yes, always, and keep in mind, always, please keep in mind when you are working or dealing with learners, with any person in your life, don't say this is right and this is wrong, but try to guide them indirectly and tell them you can do this in a more better, or in a better way, or you are amazing here, but why don't you try another thing in a different way? So always when we would try to change our mindset according to judging and judging others or telling information to others, from now on, please try not to say this is right or this is wrong, but always try to motivate and encourage others by using different words. And this is what we're gonna know more about, inshallah. You are all answers or all responses are accepted. We can use more polite words or gentle words to tell others you are amazing here, you are doing this in a wonderful way, but you can do it in a better way if you try so and so and so. So we have to cancel or omit some expressions or some words from our dictionary, especially with our learners, and replace it with more gentle and delicate words. Okay, so let's complete.
And difficult colleagues, patients, collaborators in science. People also often need advice about how to get on and progress in their medical or academic career. So you might seek advice about how to build networks or how to advance within medicine or science. And lastly and importantly, people will often discuss issues to do with and develop in the way that they work with you. You'll only have a few mentoring sessions scattered throughout the year. You need to make them as effective as possible by monitoring and feeding back to one another. It's also important to suggest any ways that you think that you could improve the sessions or work better together. And
so how can we end our sessions each time with our learners? How can we end our lessons or our sessions or our discussions?
By discussion and suggest anyway.
Discussing, but helpful discussion by giving them advice or guiding them. Also, by improving and asking them, what do you think, how to improve our sessions? So you can take their opinions or points of view and ask for their help to tell you what to do next time to improve the session. And what else? What else?
Their feedback, yes.
Yeah, of course. To get each time, try to get their feedback on the topic you are talking about, okay? So this is important. So the initial observation stage or step is meant to build a good rapport with them, to keep them focused, to have some empathy with them, to know about their problems, their needs, their interests and hobbies. And of course, all this will happen if they have trust in you, if they believe that you are going to guide and support them. And all the during all this or the process of mentoring or learning, or when you are teaching them something, you have to put in mind that all answers or all responses are accepted. There is nothing we call it right or not, or something which is wrong. There is no right or wrong here, but you are all okay and you are doing well and wonderful. But we can think of other ways, or we can try it in a different way till it becomes the best one after that, okay?
Make sure you have the next session in the diary, and ideally the next 2 or 3 sessions. And this avoids a lag developing if a meeting has to be postponed. The between session work we've already discussed briefly, but it includes summarising the session and your agreed action plans in an email, and ensuring that there is something to refer back to at the next session. It's also, of course, important that you don't just write down what you're going to do, but that you do commit to carrying out your action plan between one session and the next. A good mentoring meeting should have a clear agenda. It could be focused on the issues and needs to have got under the surface. It should have stretched you both. Progress has to have been recognised. A clear strategy for next steps needs to have been agreed. And you should have both learned something, and it should be really enjoyable. This should be a real highlight of your week.
So how can your meeting be a good one? How can your lesson with your learners be a good one?
If you have a good agenda or clear agenda.
Yeah, by clear agenda, we mean by writing the objectives and preparing them very well. What else?
Focused on issues and got under the surface.
Yes, by focused on issues, we mean here to focus on the lesson, the objective of the lesson. And you can go deeper if the level of your learners is higher. You can go deeper a little bit to give them extra information. Okay, what else?
Clear strategy, next steps.
Yeah, of course, you have to choose clear strategies to be very guided for your learners. And of course, both learned something when you teach your learners or when you are observing them. Of course, both of you learn something new. You can learn more about your learners and they learn something new from you, okay?
And if it's not, it probably means that the match between you and your mentor is not good. I'm going to end there because we finished the webinar, but I'm now very happy to take questions from those watching live on the feed or alternatively. Should I aim to meet with my mentor is another question. Is there an ideal number of meetings? Well, we have a bit of research that can help us with this. And what we know is that if you meet with your mentor less than 4 times a year, it's very unlikely you're going to develop that kind of depth of rapport that you need in order to kind of take difficult, sensitive, complex issues along. So the depth of the kind of conversation that you're going to get into is necessarily probably a little bit limited. So
here we have a very critical questions, my dear colleagues of great mentors. How can we meet with our learners, or how can we meet our limited meetings with our learners more effective, especially during COVID-19? How can we make it more effective? We usually meet them maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Is it enough to be very familiar or to build a good rapport with our learners? Is it enough, or is it okay? And how can we make our meetings with our learners more effective as before? Hello?
It's a tough one. Give us time.
Okay, but just say something to know that you are still here.
I think according to the video, I think she said that at 72 hours.
Yes, okay. She's talking about adults or mentees like us. We are adults, or we are big enough to we can send emails, we can talk on WhatsApp groups, we can use a lot of online platforms. But here, I mean, what about the young learners? We are dealing with them as teachers in our classrooms. How can we make our meetings with them? Especially we are since last year, we only meet them three times a week, or maybe less than, because of COVID-19. How can we make our meetings with them more effective? Or what kind of classroom can we use with them? This is what I mean.
I think once a week, for example.
Yeah, how can we make it an effective meeting?
Using the classroom
activities.
Yes, we can use the flipped classroom or apply the flipped classroom exactly. How can we apply the flipped classroom with them?
It doesn't have to be much complicated. It can be a very simple assignment. For example, I give them a passage for that they have to record themselves reading one sentence every day for me and send it to my WhatsApp or Facebook group. So it's just something to keep us connected and make sure that they recycle things in their heads every day. And even if it's just one sentence, so it doesn't matter how much.
That's a great, Noha. So we can use, as Noha mentioned, we can use only simple assignments to be connected with them or to be more communicative with them. We can use also with them WhatsApp groups to send a video or to send a small or a short assignment to read only a sentence each day and record themselves, maybe to read a small passage and answer some questions. Maybe we can send them a dialogue and ask them about the characters in the dialogue and so on. So we have to think of different means of activities, and we have to try to vary these activities, but of course, we have to choose simple and clear activities to be more connected with our learners. This is what I meant. Thank you, Noha.
We're going to suggest that you try and meet with your mentor between 4 and 6 times a year. We've also found that if you aim for 6 times, you'll meet 4, and if you aim for 4 times, you'll meet 2. So if you kind of overestimate how often you should meet, you'll probably end up kind of at the perfect level. Maybe an environment where they're contacted by their secretary or their juniors walking in. Sometimes it's better to meet in a neutral location which has no particular kind of connection to either of you. So you can rent a room often. Sometimes if it's a clinical setting, you can use an outpatients department. There's usually a place that you can find.
And of course, with our
Remember,
learners,
you're not going to
we all meet inside the classroom, or today we meet outside the classrooms, which is in the flipped classroom, which is a Google classroom, maybe a WhatsApp group, maybe a Facebook group, and so on. Okay, so let's stop sharing this and go back again to our presentation for today. Okay, Miss Amira, welcome. Miss Amira, Mr. Ahmed, how are you? Welcome to the session. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Miss Firdaus.
Okay.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice
Nice to see you,
Me
Amira
too.
Al-Habibti. Nice to see you today. Yes, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending, and we hope you will
Miss
find
Firdaus.
it useful,
Thanks.
Sure.
inshallah. Okay. You're welcome. Okay. You're welcome, Mr. Ahmed. Okay. So we have talked about before you have attended with us. We talked about the initial stages of the mentoring process. Okay. And we have talked about some processes and some objectives for today. Okay. So till now, we have talked about the initial mentor-mentee meeting, and we talked about what are the goals of the first meeting with your mentee. Can you tell me quickly, my dear friends, what are the goals?
Set goals.
Yes, set goals, build rapport, yes, and what else? Decide on the details of the contract. And what do we mean by contract? We have said that. Yes, the rules or the norms. And we have talked about the way you prefer to make your contract. Is it perfect, or is it better to be an oral or a written contract?
It can
Which
be
is better?
both of them.
Yes, it can be, of course, both of them. How can we use an oral or a written contract with our learners, for example? Yes, how can we make it a written one? By writing the rules or the norms and sticking them in front of the classroom next to the board to be visible for everyone to follow each day. And what about the oral contract? The rules or the phrases or the sentences you're gonna use with them, and vice versa, the phrases or the sentences your learners are going to use with you, okay? And here, let's start with the first part, which is building a good rapport. And after building the good rapport, of course, this is a form of getting to know you. This is a tool. If you are an observer, if you are a supervisor, a teacher, or a mentor, you can use this kind of form to deal with your mentees, which are the learners, maybe the trainees, maybe any kind. It depends on who are the people you are mentoring or training. Okay, so here getting to know you tool. This is a form. It's about the number of meetings. You can write, of course, you can specify the number of meetings from the very beginning. For example, here, first meeting, mentor name, you can write your name, mentee name, the person, if you are a teacher trainer or a teacher educator, as some of us, mentee name, date, and time. And what about the questions of getting to know you? Here, when you are dealing with your learners for the first time, you can ask these questions. You can ask them to tell me about your background. What about this question? How can you use it with young learners? How can you ask a young learner about his background?
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, excellent. Tell me about yourself.
This is
Who
a
are
bit
you?
vague for young learners. They
course.
need specific questions. Like, do you have
Yeah.
brothers, sisters? Do you like football? What's your favorite
Excellent. Yes,
food?
excellent,
Yeah,
Noha.
they
This is only a tool, Noha, and we adapt it according to the level of our learners, either young learners or adults. And by the way, this is a tool for mentees who are adults or who are adolescents. But we can adapt it to young learners, as you have mentioned. What's your name? What do you like? What's your hobby? And so on. So these are some kinds of questions, and we can adapt it according to our mentees or our learners. Tell me about your background, can be what's your name, what do you like, which animal do you like, what's your favorite fruit, and so on. What experiences have you had with teachers and students? How can we ask our learners a question like this in a simple way? How can we adapt to this question, by the way?
We can make it as a sentence, and they can complete the sentence. My name is. I'm 7 years old. I'm a boy or a girl, and so on.
Yes, and in a simple way, we can ask what's your favorite subject? He can tell you for example, I like English, and you ask him, why do you like English? He will tell you, I love the teacher, I love English, I want to speak, and so on. So these are some kinds of questions of as a tool of mentoring others. Tell me about your background. What experiences have you had with teachers and students? Describe, this is for teachers, by the way, but we can adapt it to according to our learners. Describe the student teaching or first year experience. What do you learn? Why do you want to be a teacher? Tell me about your teacher preparation program. With our learners, we can ask them, why do you like English? Why do you like animals? Why do you like math? And so on. So each time when we talk about an issue, we try to adapt it to our learners, okay? Tell me what you have learned, know about the school community. Why do you like school? Why do you like your friends? Why do you love, for example, Ahmed? Why do you love Noha? And so on. To take some responses from them. What you would say are your teaching strengths. If you are mentoring a teacher, you can ask them about, you can ask him or her about, what do you think are your points of strength? What do you like most in teaching? What do you prefer, for example, how do you like to start your lesson, or how do you like to finish your lesson? What teaching responsibilities are you concerned about? What ideas do you have to address this, and so on? So this is a tool for teachers, not for learners, by the way. But each time, as I try to stress, we try to adapt it or apply it on our learners, okay? So this is the initial meeting sample form. If you are a mentor in the future, and you all will be, inshallah, you can use a tool like this to know about the background of your mentees or your trainees as a kind of needs analysis to know about them. So this is a getting to know you tool, okay? And here are extra more questions, like, for example, how have you thought about getting to know colleagues, to the community, the building itself? Tell the mentee a little about yourself and why you agreed to be a mentor. Be positive and optimistic. Set the stage for a team experience by collaborative establishing routine time. By this tool, we only just mean here are some models of questions you can use with your mentees or with your trainees, just to get to know each other in an easy and